So this is a reading from Brushfire, the first essay in my book, Treed, Walking in Canada's Urban Forests. I want to go walking in Winnipeg's Assiniboine Forest. I want to go walking in the forest whenever and however I can. It's hard to explain without sounding like a dirty hippie, a back-to-the-lander. But over the years, I've come to the conclusion that the best version of myself lives in its 287 hectares of aspen oak parkland in southwestern Winnipeg. This best version thing is hard to explain, but let me try. When I sit down to write, my goal is to write something worth all the sacrifices of the writing life, which means that I am inevitably and irrevocably disappointed, even if I wind up with a couple of poems or even this essay. But when I go for a walk in the forest, my goal is to go for a walk in the forest. And so, having met my goal the moment I get under its trees, I'm content to spend 2 or 3 hours wandering around, getting sort of lost in the woods. And if I fall in a puddle or can't find any mushrooms or get swarmed with bugs, I've still been for a walk. To lean on a Japanese concept, I've forest bathed, which is to say that I've absorbed the angle of the sun and the sound of the leaves rustling, as well as every beneficial molecule exuded by the plants and trees. So we're going to do a forest bathing exercise now, and this one's called What's Moving. And so what we're going to do for 2 minutes is we're going to look over this landscape of trees and cattails and these trees behind us, and we're just going to think about what's moving. So just be quiet and look and notice. What I'm noticing too are all the different shades of green and all the bird song. Look at that tree in the distance on this little island in the middle of the pond. So there's one thing that I really like to point out to people when we go on forest bathing walks, and it's galls. Now I'll show it to you in a minute, but first I want you to notice that this is a willow, a deciduous tree. It doesn't usually have cones or anything resembling cones. So the appearance of what I'm going to show you should be your first clue that it's not original to the tree or a normal part of the tree. So here it is. What this is a gall. And this was created, usually they're created by wasps, and they lay an egg into the stem, and then it forces this to grow around it. So in some ways, it's like a cancer. So inside here, there's a larva that's growing, and it'll spend its entire life as a larva inside here, and it sort of eats the inside of it and grows, and then eventually it'll burrow out and become a new wasp or an adult wasp. Now I'm just looking for the hole and I don't see it. So that means there's probably a larva inside there. You'll see on this tree it has more than one. So there's one here. This one looks like something's tried to get at the larva. There's an old one here. There's an old one here. So this tree in some ways has been infested. Now it doesn't kill the tree. It's like a cancer, but it doesn't kill the tree, because it only prevents this one stem, this one branch from making more of itself, because the trees grow out from the tips every year. They build. So it doesn't hurt the tree, but it's not ideal. But other species that have them, you will see wild roses that will have galls, and they kind of look like spiky potatoes. And goldenrods have them too. So you'll see these thin stems, and then these bulbs that look very much like onions, and then the rest of it. Anyways, I think they're kind of amazing and weird, and that's why I like them. the harbingers. Yellow lady's slipper orchids, or those white mushrooms that look exactly like teeth. The variety of native violets, strawberries, and other low shrubbery in bloom. And then there's that corridor where you're surrounded by wild roses. The feeling of being surrounded by wild roses. All right, I think this is going to be a good spot. We're going to do another forest bathing exercise. Right now, we're in mixed aspen oak parkland. So here we've got some bur oaks, which is the only native oak to the prairies. And here we've got some trembling aspens, and they're sort of intermingled. And what that means is you get these like little twisted, grizzled looking oaks that grow closely together next to the trembling aspen. Now most people would think this is a birch, but it's not. The one key is that you don't get that papery, crumbling birch bark. So what we're gonna do for this exercise is go somewhere where there are a variety of trees of different shapes and sizes, different species, and then you walk around until you find the tree that is your twin. And it doesn't have to resemble you, it doesn't have to literally represent you, but it's just a tree that you feel drawn to, that some aspect of it that you like or appreciate. And then all you're gonna do is spend about 10 minutes sitting and standing under that tree and not doing very much at all, just being with that tree. All right, so this big, old, beautiful bur oak is my twin. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk right over to it. I'm gonna spend a few moments observing it. Another thing that I really like to show people when I'm forest bathing is how these trembling aspens have an adaptation to growing so close together. So if you look up this tree, it really only has branches on the very top. And these are not quite perfect specimens in that they're a little bit gnarled and stuff. But normally, you'd see a grove of trembling aspens growing close together. They only have leaves on the very top, which means that they have limited ability to photosynthesize and create energy. So you see here, you see how the trembling aspen's bark has these green segments? Well, where it's green, anywhere on the tree, they can photosynthesize. So this bark is acting the way that a leaf would, and I think that's fascinating. Another thing that you notice, you see this white? See that? That is the tree's sunscreen. It's the equivalent to zinc oxide. And sometimes when I was feeling too clever, I'd rub it down my nose and then I just got acne. But it's the tree's sunscreen, not my sunscreen. All right, so you'll see along here another one of the sort of wildflowers that you see commonly on the prairies and here in the forest. And these are Canada anemone. Now they look like trilliums for those of you that live in Ontario, but they are not trilliums. I just like them, and that sort of radial leaf and the beautiful pure white flowers.